I'm not going to make a mess. Then, oopsie.
I'll talk about her. She's 4 years old. She just turned 4 in January. She's really a little outspoken little girl. And I love her to death. I don't know. She's my baby, my princess.
Yeah.
Raising Isaac and being a part of his life and watching him learn to write and read and all of those things has just been amazing to me. It's what I should have experienced with my daughter. I feel like, God's given me a second chance to raise a child, and I'm grateful.
The stuff I'm doing now to try to be a mom, I can't make up anything. Can't make up time. I already know that. But I want to show them that, we don't have to live that. It doesn't have to continue with my granddaughter, or my grandson. It doesn't have to be like that. So.
I was 7. I kind of saw through the mosquito door or whatever that there was cops outside, and so then when I went out there, she was just getting arrested and she was yelling at me saying that she loved me and that kind of thing, and then that was it. That was the last time I saw her.
This is Iowa, the picture of farmland, rolling hills, far-reaching fields, and happy families. But even as we look at Iowa and see this picture, there are still parts that are unclear, and things that go unseen. I'm Katie Coombs, and I grew up in Council Bluffs, Iowa, where I first started the story. Nearly a year ago, I began investigating meth use in my hometown, and throughout the rest of the state of Iowa, and what I found often shocked me, as it may shock you. I found that behind this beautiful picture of Iowa, there's a secret and heartbreaking addiction that tears families and communities apart. That children who grow up in homes with meth-addicted mothers often find themselves entering the cycle of drug use too. And that the people who try to help these families often find barriers in their way to success. But what I've also found could be a solution. It's about breaking the cycle. I hope that you'll take a closer look at this picture of Iowa with me.
This is another picture of Raylan when she was little. What does that say? It was for a school Christmas concert. So I did her hair and she was happy about that. I tried to be a good mom, but I don't know how good I was because, I was always high.
Glennis Guerrero, mother of 4, is now also a proud grandmother of 4. She is active in her church and community. She is a helpful mentor and godmother for her close friends. She's always trying to improve herself and help those around her. But her life has not always been this way. From the time Glennis was 17 until she was 33 years old, she was addicted to methamphetamine. All the while, she tried to raise her children.
This is Wilhelmina when she was a baby. I think she was 2 there. But I think that was Easter because this is a picture of Ephraim and Wilhelmina in their Easter outfits. And I love this picture. Ephraim looks like he's nuts in it.
But methamphetamine is one of the most highly addictive, chemically altering drugs available to Iowans. Its devastating effects can damage a user's mind and body forever. And it stopped Glennis from being the mother she wished she was. The same is true for her friend and fellow recovering addict, Lisa Rios, who struggled raising her oldest daughter because of her addiction too.
I wasn't a very kind mother, especially if I was waking up with a hangover kind of a thing. I think I was really short and probably mean. I wasn't really abusive per se. I never hit her or anything like that, but I was not available, so I'm sure that did, enough emotional damage. I don't remember a lot.
Lisa and Glennis both saw their children removed from their custody during the deepest points of their addiction.
Let's see. She was 8 years old, and this is the last time that Raylan and Dolores were able to see her. And then she got adopted. But I was still in jail, in prison.
For Glennis and her children, Raylin, Dolores, Ephraim, and Wilhelmina, like so many Iowa families, the cycle of meth use meant sometimes losing contact with each other.
So there's a couple of times we used to stay with my mom, but it would always end up her leaving us with her friends at her place, or her, like when I got old enough, with my little sister and my little brother Ephraim and Wilhelmina, but I would have to take care of them for days straight. So I would call my grandma again to come pick us up. And she used to tell me all the time why I always wanted to go back with my mom. And I just never told her why, but it's always just because I wanted to have a mom.
Take a drink. You want a drink?
But for Raylin, that simply wasn't always an option. It was from her mother's own store that Raylin first tried the drug herself.
I didn't start using drugs until I was 13 or 14 years old, but I knew what they were, and I started to know what she was doing. My grandma drank all it every weekend, then seeing my mom always using, to me, that was normal. So the people I was hanging out with were using, so why not join the club?
This is a story well known for many Iowa children who grow up and live in homes with meth-addicted parents. But for the rest of Iowa, the picture we often see fails to show the wide-reaching control of methamphetamine and its damaging effects on Iowa children. So let me paint a more accurate picture for you. Methamphetamine is considered the drug of choice for the state of Iowa, which means that more than half of all of Iowa prison incarcerations are due to methamphetamine, and this number has only increased since 2009. But more than just prison statistics, the number of meth labs in the state of Iowa has also increased from about 150 in 2010 to 290 in 2013, though this number is down from the peak in 2011, where more than 400 meth labs were seized. But still, even this data may be underreported, as these are only the numbers submitted to the Iowa Division of Narcotics Enforcement. But the picture is still incomplete. New data has shown that the number of Iowa children who are exposed to illegal drugs and who even have illegal drugs found in their own bodies has increased every year since 2008, culminating with more than 1,000 Iowa children testing positive for illegal drugs in their own bodies. Furthermore, the Iowa Department of Human Services shows that at least 110 of these incidents occurred because a child's own parent or guardian was manufacturing methamphetamine in the presence of their child last year. But the picture isn't finished yet, because some estimates suggest that hundreds more Iowa children are still falling through the cracks. For the state employees tasked with helping Iowa's drug-endangered children, the lack of resources can cause serious distress.
You know, there's 35,000 people in my county. We remove, on average, anywhere from 10 to 30 children a month. You'd think at some point we'd run out of families. I mean, that's a lot of children being removed from their families. So I guess I think we have the manpower. I just think that we're just overloaded. Sorry, I lost you.
As Assistant Jasper County Attorney Scott Nicholson paced his office during yet another case, even after hours, it became clear that overloaded hardly begins to describe the workload of the social workers and law enforcement officers who work with the Drug Endangered Children's Program.
But one of the reasons we formed our DEC program is to stop the cycle of use in a family.
While the agency is meant to help all of Iowa's children, the Alliance currently only reaches 11 of Iowa's 99 counties and has only 2 counties with specific drug-endangered children protocol. But meth reaches the entire state.
It's not just Jasper County. It's statewide. There are pockets that are more concentrated, like Newton, like Marshalltown, like Ottumwa. But no, I know it's statewide.
And statewide data confirms that meth reaches all of Iowa, with high numbers of meth labs coming out of Black Hawk and Lee counties, though again, not all counties have reported their seizures. But when a report is made, and the Iowa Alliance for Drug Endangered Children can intervene, these kids are separated from their parents and often taken to the Blank Children's Hospital, where they may meet a care provider like Jennifer Sleeter, who screens for mental, dental, and physical health concerns.
We're lucky here in Polk County because there are a lot of resources for kids. However, there's so many rural areas in Iowa that there just aren't children, like children's psychiatrists or child psychologists or even therapists that are comfortable working with young children. So, especially in other areas, I just feel there's probably not enough resources for these kids.
And when children are exposed to these dangerous chemicals, they face a wide range of physical and mental health risks.
All the bad things that happened before the age of 18 impacted social, physical, mental health, as well as work performance, ability to learn, everything like that.
Gladys Noel Alvarez is a licensed social worker, and she showed me that children exposed to meth may be neglected, abused, or otherwise traumatized. They see an increased risk in neurological damage, an increased risk for disease, and more often they see problems with social interactions and learning disabilities.
A lot of times the kids, just from the secondhand smoke, a lot of times they'll have a lot of respiratory problems. So we see a higher number of ear infections and asthma. Obviously there's always a chance of fires and explosions when it's a lab situation, so we know that's kind of the worst case scenario. And again, the neglect is probably one of the big things. If they're not getting their immunizations, if they're not going to the dentist, if they're not having their regular checkups, a lot of times those are the things that we'll see with those kids.
Resources available to children are still hard to find, leaving more Iowa children to enter the cycle of drug use themselves.
Substance abuse is not an intentional bad, deliberate thing they're doing, but it's probably a coping skill to help them with their own traumatic experiences, right? And until we address the traumatic experience, we're probably not going to make much headway on the substance abuse issue.
But as more and more Iowa children are exposed to methamphetamine, we have to question, how is it getting into their bodies?
Kids now, when they're being tested after being out of these homes, are testing positive for methamphetamine and drugs like never before. But it's not because the kids are using the drugs, it's because the kids are in that environment. It's causing them to test positive for these chemicals.
These children face a variety of trauma, as school teachers are often the first to see.
We have kids as young in kindergarten who are getting themselves up and ready, and probably then aren't getting showers. Because you think about that age level, they're not going to think about those things. Sometimes they're getting fed, sometimes they're not.
And as these children grow older, they may make a choice, like Raylyn, to use the drug themselves.
I find that the women usually tell me that they got involved in drugs in their early teens, maybe 13, 14, 15 years old, especially if they don't have much of a family support. Some of the women we work with were raised in homes where their mothers, the grandmothers, the mothers did drugs.
We see a lot more marijuana use than we do methamphetamine use. But I'd say in the last 5 years that trend is changing a little bit. I am seeing more teenagers using methamphetamine. We call them second and third generation families.
As I traveled the state of Iowa and met more families in my research, I found that the cycle of meth use reaches through the generations, and it's clear that families begin to feel that way too.
I think that my sisters did it because my mom did.
So at a point, I had to wonder, why do people use meth at all?
I think I was 17, first time I tried it. And it was awesome. I just remember thinking, oh yeah, I finally found something that makes me feel, I don't know, like it just changed everything.
It alters your mind to the effect that you feel like you are this superhero and you can just accomplish anything. But in the end, you don't accomplish anything.
I don't really take bad things very well. So
That's water over here.
that's when I relapsed. And then after that, because I didn't know what to do with myself, or because he took my daughter from me, I started to use and didn't stop using because I didn't know what else to do.
That superhero, amazing feeling that Lisa and Glennis discussed also helps explain why Raylyn might have used the drug when she was in a hard time. Most simply put, methamphetamine makes the user feel really, really good. It's a crystal-like drug that can be eaten, injected, snorted, or smoked. However it's consumed, it releases these pleasure sensors called dopamine, and according to some research, meth can release even 4 times as much dopamine as a drug like cocaine, and 10 times as much dopamine as sex. Experts say that this kind of dopamine release is not possible by normal activity, but the pleasure comes at a high cost. Meth will change a user's body and mind, and could destroy their family.
And they took my daughter. And it's really a sick mind to think that you can parent somebody when you're under the influence of that drug. It does not, however, ever stop a mother from truly loving her children, but it's something so much greater than we are.
Lisa's right. For so many Iowans addicted to methamphetamine, meth is stronger than their bodies and minds. Meth can permanently alter users' brain chemistry so that they may never have full use of their abilities to feel, learn, remember, or think straight again. Sometimes, if users stay clean for more than 1 year, some may be able to regain their brain functions, but others cannot. Meth also takes a serious toll on the user's body, keeping them up for days and then forcing a prolonged crash. Users may have scars, blisters, and sores, and they will almost certainly find themselves unavailable to their children. And as Iowans are increasingly using and cooking meth, we see more families break apart and more children traumatized. This is why the Drug Endangered Children's Task Force so often must step in.
I have had times where I've had to go to a parent and say, it's time for you to choose between methamphetamine and your child.
I have 2 other sons, yeah. Alex and Xavier.
Over here.
I miss them every day, but there's nothing I can do about it because my rights were terminated for them. And now that's why I don't want to do the same thing to my daughter, my baby, that I did to them.
But while meth can break families apart, families can also be reunited.
She has forgiven me. I feel that God's restored our relationship completely. She calls me when she needs advice, and so we have a very nurturing, loving relationship.
I think that the most important person to me is my mom. Like, by far, I think I could go on knowing that she's okay. I mean, I don't know how to put it, but she's like the most important part about my life. And that's the way I feel about my sisters, and that's the way I feel about her kids. And I think that despite how crazy we all are, I mean, they're really important to me.
But for many Iowa families, the cycle is harder to break. And as children of meth-addicted parents continue to grow up, it becomes a greater and greater challenge to stop the cycle of meth use. And many experts suggest that the best way to break the cycle is to never let a child use in the first place.
Bad.
But for all those who work to break the cycle, there are more children who stay out of reach.
The parents are exhibiting behaviors.
The methamphetamine, for some reason, it's concentrated in the Midwest very badly right now.
But does meth have to have such a strong hold? Aren't there ways to help break the cycle? For meth users, perhaps the answer comes from within.
I feel that I was delivered from that addiction, because the desire was gone. Has it been gone the entire 10 years? No. But in those moments, I just thank God that I'm not who I was. I just say no. Just like the slogan that says, just say no, It's hard maybe the first time, but when you're delivered, and you don't desire that at all.
But for children, can they just tell a parent no?
The DEC program that's what it's designed for, is the children. I know, some people think drugs are a choice. It's a choice people make. Well, what I'd offer to you is that's one thing, but the children, a lot of times, they don't have a choice.
It's a community, it's a systems issue, and how the whole system, how the whole community responds to individuals, be that in a school, be that in juvenile justice, in the courtroom, in a mental health facility, wherever. Everybody needs to do that.
I really think the one thing that we can all do is work together. Like I said, having all the agencies working together and communicating is really important in first identifying these kids to be able to try to get the services that they need, and then following through to make sure that they're continuing to get what they need, providing those services for those kids and for the parents to be able to become healthy and stay healthy.
It affects in a family where the parents are using methamphetamine, it affects every part of that family, socially, economically, mentally, emotionally. All aspects are affected when a parent is hooked on methamphetamine.
Yet despite this knowledge, Iowa communities have very few resources in the state. In schools, where most children expect to find help, the Drug-Free Schools and Communities program has been eliminated, first reduced by more than $300,000 between 2012 and 2013, and then reduced to $0 during fiscal year 2013. This reduction is largely attributed to programs like DARE, which many believed was unsuccessful, and were simply not replaced. And while it may not seem like funding is short, because schools and the Department of Human Services together account for about 2/3 of Iowa's total state budget, funding is still lacking where long-term child mental health care is concerned. And hundreds of Iowa children still fall through the cracks. As funding is cut in schools, it's also cut in local law enforcement training, leaving many wondering, what does the future hold for Iowa's children? And what does the future hold for Iowa? Maybe with a more clear picture, Iowans together can find a way to break the cycle. If you're interested in joining the effort to break the cycle of generational meth addiction in Iowa, there are several steps you can take. First, find out if your county is part of the Iowa Alliance for Drug Endangered Children. The Alliance combines the work of police officers with social workers, the county attorney's office, and the local hospital to help ensure that children exposed to these dangerous chemicals are getting the care they need. If your county is one of the 97 counties in Iowa that does not currently have a drug endangered children protocol, reach out to your local police and tell them this is something important to you. You may also reach out to Susie Scher for more information on how to get your county to join forces with the Drug Endangered Children Alliance. Another option you have to be part of the solution is to make yourself more informed personally. Maybe you work with children as a daycare provider, a teacher, or are considering foster care or adoption yourself. Perhaps you know a child who has been exposed to trauma and want to do all you can to help that child become a successful adult. Gladys Knoll Alvarez wants to help people like you stay informed and has launched the Trauma Informed Care Project to help form compassionate communities. For more information about the Iowa Trauma Informed Care Project, reach out to Gladys Knoll Alvarez or check out their website. But perhaps you're in a different situation and personally need help breaking the cycle of your own addiction. People like Gene Stevens of HopeNet Ministries in Council Bluffs, which is also where Glennis and Lisa are still volunteering, want to help any Iowan struggling with addiction find the means to break their own tormented cycle. And of course, if you believe that a child you know may be in danger of abuse or neglect, always report it. Call the Iowa Department of Human Services and start breaking the cycle of meth addiction today.